Now look, I got a serious question, y'all. Cause at what point does internet content stop being entertainment and start becoming something that society is actually responsible for? Because this Chud the Builder situation just isn't online drama. It's what happens when harassment starts to become profitable and profitable long enough that it eventually spills into real world consequences. And once violence enters the picture, everyone suddenly starts asking questions they ignored for a long time. Why wasn't this stopped earlier? Who allowed it to escalate? And why does it take something such as someone getting shot for accountability to finally show up? Y'all, to understand this situation, you have to really understand how the internet economy actually works. On major platforms, attention is currency. All right, y'all. And nothing generates attention faster than conflict, humiliation, provocation. What's it say? It's provocative. It keeps the people going. And emotional outrage. So over time, a certain type of content gets rewarded. Not because it's good though, but because it simply performs. And we've seen this across streaming platforms. I mean, y'all all saw Aiden Ross get cussed out and dragged by Glasses Malone. I mean, tell me, why was people like him to ever able to build platforms saying wild and outlandish stuff like they do? We even seen it in short form content and live interactions. We've seen this everywhere, y'all. People pushing boundaries, people escalating situations, people turning real people into reaction content. And when that content performs consistently, the system doesn't correct it, it amplifies it because the system itself is benefiting from the harassment. The problem is, this isn't happening in the vacuum. There are real people on the other end of this content, real individuals being provoked, recorded, and turned into entertainment. And when that dynamic continues to exist unchecked, it creates a feedback loop. More provocative content leads to more views leads to more money leads to more visibility, and more visibility leads to more escalation. So by the time something like Chud the Builder situation even reached public attention, it didn't start there. Because let's be real, Chud the Builder had been doing this kind of content for quite some time. Let that settle in. Because what that means is this man was literally running around this community harassing the Black people in it, and nobody did anything until it escalated. Recently, attention had been focused on the aftermath of what happened involving Chud the Builder. And I want to be careful here because this isn't just content. There are real people involved, including the man who was shot, Joshua Fox, and others impacted by this situation. I mean, his whole family is going to have to live through what happened to him. And what stood out though wasn't just the incident itself, it was how quickly the conversation shifted into something bigger. People started asking how long this behavior had been happening, what warning signs were ignored, and who benefited from the escalation. Because situations like this don't appear suddenly, they build over time. One of the most important parts of this situation is how the community responded afterward. Fundraisers were shared for the victim and his family. People contributed financially. We put our dollars behind what it is that we believed in. And I want to say kudos to the Black community for holding that family down. Because last time I checked, we had raised over $100,000 in just a few days. I think it was like 24 hours, and we had already raised $100,000. The sad part about this is, though, is Chud the Builder has been raising funds as well. But I want to make sure that we remember that the response our community had matters because it shows something real about how our community reacts to harm now. We don't just commented on it, we mobilized around it. And we didn't just do it in this situation. Like, take the situation with Mr. Tendernism. We stood on business, y'all, so that we could make sure Unc was able to branch out and start his own. And even in that situation, we stood up financially by making sure that we put money in his pocket. I think he raised over $100,000 as well. And what we're seeing is we're not just outraged. We're not just complaining in the streets like we used to. It's direct material response to harm when it happens. And this is where the contradiction becomes unavoidable. While communities are responding after harm occurs, the system that allowed the escalations are still intact. Platforms are still benefiting from this kind of engagement. I mean, they already posting about a copycat. The algorithms reward this kind of conflict, and audiences are still incentivized to watch, share, and engage with the chaos when it's entertaining. Then, once something crosses into real world harm, the same system starts to distance themselves. They act surprised, like they didn't know what was going on the whole time. They issue statements, they shift responsibility to other people. But at what time do we start holding these platforms responsible? This is where I want to introduce a framework I've been thinking about. I call it the Black Cultural Renaissance era. But I don't mean it's something romantic or symbolic. I mean it more so as like a shift in community behavior, a growing rejection of humiliation based content, grifting, and chaos driven internet culture. I want us to increase demand for accountability and for us to build community support systems so that we can help each other when these kind of situations take place. I want to make it clear that it's not like the internet has changed or something. There has always been people who benefited from this form of content. But the difference is now is that the community is becoming more aware of how we're being used and how our anger, our trauma is being used to financially benefit other communities. And I want us to build up infrastructure so that we can protect ourselves in this sort of environment. We need to be aware of what kind of content we want to reward moving forward. This Chud the Builder situation exposes how internet platforms, audiences, and institutions profit from the harassment and spectacle of the Black community. And it isn't until real world violence forces accountability does anything change. But the public response always shows something else is also emerging, not just outrage, but action, support, and a growing demand for something more responsible than what we're been giving so far. So the real question isn't just what happened here, is how do we build a system where this keeps happening? And I mean, it's not some type of, I don't know, rocket science. We can easily figure out where this kind of outrage and harassment content stems from. I mean, we could just look at the history. And if you want some examples, a lot of them on my channel is going to be talking about, in particular, Puerto Rico. But I mean, slip and slide, look and apply. It's the same giddy up wherever that you go. These mofos weren't that creative. I'm telling you that they're not that creative. They did the same thing over and over again. But with that being said, if you like this one, you'll most certainly like this video. And until next time, stay beautiful, stay blessed, stay Black. This is Jade, and you're watching Get Into the Black. Bye bye.